All right, everyone. How's it going? We are back here in Seattle for the end of the third day of the North American Collins Scrabble Championship. We're going to have Jesse, my friend here, listening in the background. And we're also joined by Mike Frentz again down in the Bay Area. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing well, and looking forward to, as those of you who, like me, spend a portion of your Sundays watching NFL Red Zone, this is the witching hour. These last four games will determine who makes the top four, and every game the stress will ratchet up. The spotlight intensifies, and for better and for worse, these are the games that will stick in these players' memories.
Absolutely. And Kevin is 13-7. He's actually in second place, so he's in good shape if he can win this game. On the other hand, his opponent Rob is kind of on the outside looking in right now in sixth place with an 11-9 record, but the highest point spread. What are you thinking, Jesse?
I was looking, if you go back to the standings list for a second there, it's rather telling and kind of funny. We look at second place, it's Kevin. He's at 13-7, and his spread is plus. He's at plus 331. Colton is just one spot below him at 12-8, but his spread is 1,086. So effectively, when we're looking at the standings with Colton and everyone else at the same number of wins, Colton is up by so much spread. He's effectively up like unofficially a win or a half win, depending on how you look at it, if you have everyone else at the same record. So, I mean, that's definitely a nice, I'm not going to say backup, but it's a nice extra weapon to have on your side as you're going to the last couple of rounds that, barring a massive blowout or two, he's probably going to have that edge with equal records. So he's just going to be focusing on winning. I don't think his strategy is going to change that much in that sense, where some people might have to play to win big and not just win.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Kevin goes with the early W over 10, trying to draw a bingo, and it looks like he's done that as Rob is forced to trade a bunch of vowels, keeping a halfway decent lead of DE. We'll see what he's able to do from there. I expect Kevin to find his bingo here, but we'll see.
And to follow on to Jesse's point, taking a cursory look at the standings, it looks as though 15 wins is the magic number. Get to 15 and it would take being on the wrong side of a spread battle to be out of the top four. Conversely, the best the 14 and 10s, could hope for would be to sneak into the fourth on spread.
Exactly. So someone like Colton's got that good shot where, if he only gets to 14, goes 2-2 this afternoon, he's actually got a chance if he can keep that spread really high. So I'm surprised Kevin's taken this long here. He has the word spelled out. I don't know if he's just debating where he wants to play it, but
he might be thinking about the vulnerability of the E next to the double letter and triple word combo, just if he necessarily needs to give that up for points, maybe. Or thinking about an S placement on woe.
Or the E, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shortage of choices.
Yeah. He will make one of the plays for sure. And it looks like he's going to be playing it alongside woe, hooking his E to make woe. And that's going to give him an early lead. Rob was really hoping for an R there for Emerald, but it does not look like he is going to get it. Now, it's of course funny. If he took that M and turned it upside down, he would have Agueweed.
Yeah.
But Aguemead, no sir.
MU next to Ag Eyes is probably what he's looking at as a candidate play here.
We did leave a couple points on the board here. Mike, what do you think?
It looks, reasonable. I can understand why he did it, to not... Either play is going to give access to one of the triple word scores, but playing it at 7G would open up the potential for some big play involving an H or an F, or heaven forfend the X, going across to the East triple. This opens up the North triple, but it's harder to score on that spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of that X, it looks like it just showed up there for Kevin. So we'll see in a sec. But it looks like, as Jesse mentioned a minute ago, Emu is going to come down for a good score for Rob, keeping a solid lead. It'd be important for Rob to get a bingo down pretty soon. Kevin's probably going to score pretty well again here. What stands out?
Let's see, I'm seeing exotic through the eye of Agassiz.
Yeah, it seems pretty reasonable to me as well. Scores well. What do you think, Jesse? If you're in a position like Rob, let's head back to Rob for a sec, where you're going to be down 80, 90, 100 after a few turns. What are your thoughts about trying to construct that comeback early on?
I think in Rob's case, part of this is knowing who Rob is as a player, like knowing what your strengths are, especially when Rob is not, I mean, all of us are subject to possibly being on tilt, but usually, assuming that's not a variable, Rob's word finding is one of his greatest strengths. So he needs to shape a board that allows him that opportunity, so we want essentially the spider formation, as we call it. Like, so that would be not staircase Scrabble, where you are thinking longer plays that will open the board up to give you more letters to play through, to do possible 8s or then just 7s that hook. I feel like Rob needs to do something where he's still scoring something okay. Maybe for one turn or two, he's giving up a little bit on points, as long as he's keeping that board wide open. Because we do see plays like this from Kevin when it's suitable. I don't know if Kevin is as hyper blocky as some of the other players, but Tix is definitely a play that shuts down options very quickly. So he's probably going to think about opening this board up. When I look, he's got nothing above that X that would allow him to score there. So he's probably, if I were him, I'd be looking under the W in Woe or off the O and S. If you can't score, somewhere over there to open up a new quadrant is likely the play to make.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much about AUA. How about you, Mike? You see anything?
Dula, perhaps?
Dula's a decent play.
Mm-hmm. Not quite as good of a leave, but scores a few more points. Kind of keeps the tempo after only scoring 26 with Tix. I suspect Rob will probably take a few minutes here because he does, as we mentioned, he wants to score. There's not that much open.
Not many options. Yeah. Well, I see a couple of things in the chat here saying where people are from. There's several people here from Will, as I'm assuming this would be Will's Twitch. So nice to have you here. We love having the crossover and the feed off. So welcome to those here from Will's channel. Ancient Cosmographer says here indirectly from Word Freak. Now there is a throwback.
Yeah.
A lot of us who are here either in the commentary booth or are currently playing, we've had influence to some degree from Word Freak. It's absolutely a monumental part of our history as a community. So
yeah, celebrating 25 years this year.
Wow.
Or 20 years.
Must
have been 20 because
01?
Yeah.
01 sounds right. Because I definitely remember.
Well, at the World Cup this year, we had a celebration for one of the key moments, but it couldn't have been 1998. That wouldn't make much sense.
It's pre-2003 because that's the year I first started playing tournament Scrabble in person, and it had already come out at that time. So it's definitely before that.
Well, Stefan, if you're out there, remind us what we were celebrating in Albany this year.
Aaron Bader says he's here from Lexpert. Nice. I remember that software.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's do I.
That was like the Palm Pilot, I think that worked on way back then. Or LampWords. That's a really
LampWords. Yeah. Lexpert worked on desktop. That was what was out when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca says 2001. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you.
I'm not seeing a whole lot in the way of options here, and clearly neither is Rob.
Yeah, I mean, Quackle says Awa. We've noted Dula also scores a few points. Kind of a number of kind of crap draws, to be honest. Rob often does his little kind of head shake back and forth when he's not really sure what to do. Not necessarily that he's unhappy or happy, just weighing his options or lack thereof. Probably not quite worth it, but AA, making AW and Tau or AAS, I mean. Kind of interesting only in that a lot of times Kevin's going to have to trade because there's just nothing there. Maybe Rob's able to hit a bingo underneath, but DELOU is not great. Rob really just needs to bingo as soon as humanly possible. Get that 50-point bonus. I feel like we've run out of things to say about this specific rack. I didn't know. Axer Typo mentions in the chat that they've been married to you for many years.
Oh, Josh Sokol is referencing a layover I was on in Montreal once, where I believe it was a bagel that I put on my finger as a ring of sorts, and that was our unofficial engagement photo of sorts.
Nice.
There we go. Yes, he's typed. We got engaged with a bagel on each ring finger.
Okay. Sounds like a very Canadian wedding.
Yeah. To you, it was just that one night. To me, it was everything. Oh, merci, mon cher. Let's see. Benji says AoE is actually an okay leave in CSW. That might be true, but you know what? AoE is an even better game if we're going to do a throwback.
I was going to say, where's David Eldar?
AoE 2, the definitive edition. We got to go with that. That's like the best.
Well, we have our world champion, David Eldar. So, and by that I mean of AoE. Oh, he's actually streaming. I should see that. It's on my bar over here. So Rob has finally decided to play Allos. Maybe Eldar will be streaming AoE later. Surprising play. It doesn't really open too much, or
that seems like he was trying to balance, committing. It's either
not committing in the direction.
Right. You either want to commit to a strong leave or commit to scoring points. And this seems like he was trying to balance the two, and that rarely works out the way you actually want.
Right. And we can see again, he's with ADU, he drew a couple more vowels, etc. Looks like we're going to have a nice little cheese word coming down from Kevin, which I know will make Jesse, our resident cheese expert, very excited.
I am a fan of the cheese.
Nice. For a while, I think Cotija was not valid in Scrabble, but I'm glad we, of all the dictionary wrongs that may or may not exist, getting Cotija and also Manchego into the dictionary certainly made me very happy. So, good play for Kevin. Just take out a lot of surface area of the board while scoring well also. And, that bottom left going to be hard to open without an S or just a very small play down from the L, etc. Not a whole lot of just board space for Rob to work with. Any plays stand out?
Nothing jumps to mind immediately. This is, I believe, the fourth straight rack Rob has had with at least 5 vowels.
Right. Though we did note a minute ago that AoE, not the worst lead ever, and Hewed fits pretty nicely alongside the Koti and Cotija.
There's also something like Suede if he is really desperate to open up new space, playing underneath XU. Or maybe even just
that would
Sued,
definitely.
Maybe even just Sued setting up an E hook.
Yeah, you wonder if he's going to be a little too wary of the vowels to keep another three vowels on the leave. Exertype also points out Hewed gives a lot back. Not ideal. Nothing's particularly ideal here, but y'all go ahead and get your 64 slices of American cheese. We'll be back here in a sec. And
I'd prefer to have 64 slices of literally any other chease personally.
That's fair. Yeah. Oh, so
unless it's Tillamook.
So Canadian cheese.
Okay, maybe not any other. We're not that much better up north, to be honest. But Tillamook cheese is pretty good.
Yeah. Does Tillamook make American cheese? I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, cheese from Quebec, to be fair. There's some really good cheese in Quebec.
Yeah. Mike wants to talk about something other than cheese.
There you go.
What do you have to say?
Ahead, I did notice perhaps HAUTE through the T of Cotija.
Yeah.
Which tries to throw open the left side of the board again.
Yeah,
So it's the
that's
sort of play
effective. It
that's
scores.
it's easily, interfered with, but Kevin might have to sacrifice points to do so.
Yeah, that's part of what's nice about that. It scores okay, keeps a decent leave, all things considered, but it's hard to really block it. And that's kind of what Rob's going to need is some lanes that require some sacrifice for his opponent to block while he continues to hopefully get more points. Noting that ZEA spot for Kevin could be interesting. Though I'm not sure there's that much there. And it looks like a flavor of what Mike had suggested has come down in SUE. Again, another kind of high volatility leave, but he does save himself HOAED for the next turn. But as we know, this isn't going to end well for Rob.
Maybe what he's hoping is that his opponent doesn't know how that's going to reflect. Because, I mean, from his opponent's point of view, it's telegraphing at least a couple of vowels in his rack. But beyond that, we don't know. So, but in Kevin's case, he's going to score very nicely.
Yeah, and he's seen Azine immediately to, nobody's surprise. But looks like it's going to come down. That's going to score 74, and that absolutely breaks this game wide open. And yet again, Rob is in his kingdom for an R. Which yet again, he did not get, but it does look like he's got a pretty good way to open the board here and ensure that things will stay open for a little while. I think we're probably going to see Havoc, which leaves 3 entire areas of this board. They can be closed eventually. That gives Rob more time to actually get a bingo down, score well, etc. I'd say this is trending in the direction of a pretty open board if Rob is able to do something like Havoc here.
And that's something he's going to need. He's going to need to count on Kevin drawing a bad rack eventually, which he has.
Yeah. He has. I feel like he'll probably be able to score something.
I mean, as Havoc comes down, that does concede back hymns at the very least, if Kevin wants that.
And nice for Rob. He finally had like a straightforward play.
Yes.
Really hadn't had many of those. I expect hymns will come down. That's a pretty solid play. And doesn't open much. Scores well. Mike, chat is saying that Axer Typo did not consent to a mind meld. So it looks like you two are both talking about Havoc and hymns at the same time.
I'm barely able to figure out how to get the stream working. I'm don't ask me to try to mind meld through it.
That's fair. Well, it looks like Rob finally got his R, but it just goes from bad to worse for him. It feels like. I think he's going to be staring at his rack again, just wondering like why. So not too much from Kevin. He's just kind of moving some consonants around, debating what he's going to do. Nice thing about a rack like that, he doesn't have any vowels. Obviously, he has a Y, but he's going to be able to score well. And if he picks up some vowels, probably finds himself with a decent leave already.
Okay, it looks like he's trying to line up Scampy through the A, which would not work out well for him because, according to my notes here, spy cam is the valid word in those letters.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah, Scampy. I think the weird thing is you can add es to it. I think Scampies. So the if you will, the plural of this phony is good. Now I don't know if I think I saw Sam Rosen out there. Scampy would certainly give me strong Scramps vibes, where Sam once only had to play the word cramps in order to beat Nigel Richards, but instead he added on an S to bingo with Scramps, who was challenged off. And then he lost the game. He told that story yesterday, so I feel like it's okay for me to troll him a little bit more. Kevin has hymns laid out, however, and looks like he will. He's thinking about it, and the clock is hit. And I think we're going to say that's a good play. Tragedy averted.
Rob with a rack that looks like it should have some kind of bingo, but doesn't.
Yeah, I don't even know. It doesn't even seem to have much of anything. Again. I mean, I'm not. Toned? I don't really think you want to play all the way underneath. Azine. I mean, you can score some points, but
is there a decent spot to clear the V for reasonable points?
Nothing immediately stands out. And this is even, for having a V, this seems like such a good rack, all things considered, if you have one of those Vs, but just nothing. I don't even think there's any. Are there any possible 8s with that? No. Not even that many 9s, all things considered. I just learned Davenport anagrams to Provanted, if anyone was curious. Devonport also. Undervote is a noun. Have a suggestion for vendor. I don't think it's quite worth it, but Nertz and Suet is kind of interesting just because it actually scores quite well. But VOD, at least until we get the Twitch-centric word added to the dictionary, not a leave that's going anywhere.
I mean, given the score in the special, which I don't think is updated quite yet, I don't think it.
I can do something about that. I just need to hit the save button here. See in a few seconds.
Given the score, I would tend toward playing fewer tiles rather than more to try and prolong the game as long as possible. Given that you have 2 E's open, is simply fishing the V with Vug a possibility?
Well, it seems like you would draw a lot of bingos post Vug. What are the main letters left? So an I gets you, oriented, etc. An A doesn't go with it, but non-rated, rationed, etc. It's possible. I mean, I think you probably assume if you fish off the V here, Kevin's most likely, obviously we have perfect knowledge, probably going to play a top Azine, because that takes out the maximum amount of bingo lanes before Rob's impending bingo. Benji Scrabble points out that Rob has scored 87 points in 15 minutes on his clock. So he's averaging under 6 points per minute. It's not going well when that happens.
That's a toughie.
I don't blame him. I mean, Havoc was kind of the only obvious, or Havoc and Emu. So it looks like he's going to go for zoned. Okay.
Trying to reopen, trying to open the bottom right quadrant of the board, which and it scores decently, and RTV can be salvaged by a couple of vowels.
Yeah, and to your point before, those two E's that are open, he almost has a free vowel because he'll be able to play through an E for sure. The question is Kevin going to find his bingo that also plays through all three of those E's?
Now, given he's behind, I was thinking before until he played, what about Zendo in that spot? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. What I like about Zendo is putting that D in a good spot to try to hit a double-double.
Also, 2 blanks and an ass was kind of what I was thinking about, because he's behind, so why not try for like more hooks?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, in this spot, it makes sense to play Zendo. Just you need to keep the board more open. You don't give your opponent a scoring spot back. I think it makes sense to me. So let's see if I expect Kevin to find this. He does not miss many bingos, so we've already seen a couple crazy ones from him. But we'll find out. I'm not sure I would have been 100% sure at Peacener. How about you? How about y'all?
I'd have a hard time pulling the trigger on it, truthfully.
Yeah.
Not one I've studied.
Aaron Bader says it's probably resigned territory, even if Kevin doesn't find Peacener or Pinsard. Yeah, I hear that. Score update, please, says Josh. Please at least give Rob his 100.
Yeah.
Noted.
I hit the save button a couple times. We're getting there.
Ooh.
Looks like we're going to have an epic fail here. Not really. I just wanted to say that, but unusual. I mean, again, I played Kevin a number of times this year. He knows his words. He doesn't miss that many bingos. Setting himself up for a good spot should he draw an A or an O potentially. As we know, Rob doesn't have anything to overlap the EN and the PE.
And Rob now wishing one of those S's were in a different spot.
Yeah. It's just not going his way. Do you agree that juggling DICs is difficult?
I would agree. Juggling those are quite difficult.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Kevin drew very nicely.
Yeah, Kevin, we're now noticing, was rewarded for his play with an epic draw. Can't come up with any funny phonies like imperative or something. If you can be in the imperative, why can't you be in the imperative?
I mean, even though it blocks one set of lines, just playing Vim up on row 2 seems like it does the best job of slowing the game down again and just, giving himself the best chance to actually draw a bingo, which he needs to do multiple times at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't fully block the E either, so that's at least nice that he's sacrificing the better version of the lane. But yeah, Vim was in fact played just now. Makes sense. And see who can find the highest scoring bingo. I haven't looked yet, but leave it as an exercise for the chat. The way this game is going, probably won't surprise folks to find that it starts with an E.
Okay, let's see, 92.
Yep. Well, I'll let you know right now. 92 is the maximum score. Now, what I want to know is if Kevin finds that play, Will Rob still have a bingo? Right now he has a tryptane, certainly. I do think that would be trouble. Looks like in the end, Rob could end up just having to play alongside that epic spot. No, what, EP, ICE or something.
So if you're Kevin, you're looking at this, you have a pretty comfortable lead, and you're about to play all of your letters. It's not just the points at this point in time. Obviously, we're thinking about points, but if we're talking about shaping the board, we're considering how much you're taking away from your opponent as well. So I'm curious to see what he opts for as far as where he's putting his word down, given that there's, of course, many, many places to play. I suppose, I don't know what you think, how much of this is your playing style? Like, obviously you want points and to balance things, but how much room do you think there is here for a playing style versus just, you know, how people say there's the right move, quote unquote, but then how much room do you think there is for a playing style here?
I mean, Kevin's already showed us he's willing to try to keep the board wide open after a play like Epic. You don't really need to set up an S hook like that when you're winning by so much. So I think he's probably going for points. He is going to score quite well here, but to your point, he decides to go for Enwreath, putting an H in the bottom right-hand corner. Scores fewer points, but also puts, you know, some kind of useless tiles.
Somewhat restrictive, yeah.
Yeah. I think Earthman was the play here, but unfortunately for Kevin, Rob will still have Tryptane. I now realize Veggie Scrabble was saying, yeah, EA is the word, and I was trying to figure out what he meant. In my brain, Earthman was getting played in the top right because I was blind to the E in Azine. So Rob will finally get his bingo down, presumably, but methinks too little, too late.
It definitely feels like it, unless things go incredibly sideways for Kevin on these next couple of draws.
Yeah. Well, before lunch, there was a game. Yeah, there was a game before lunch with Dave Wiegand and Pete Armstrong where Pete was up by like 200. And then Dave played bingo for like 100, then played a 9, and then bingoed out with another 9 to win. This was worse than homiletic, Mike. Worse than homiletic.
I mean, I believe you, but wow. I'll have to go back and look at. I'll have to go back and look at that one.
Yeah, it was not on stream, unfortunately, but I think they wrote their plays down. So
Tryptane does come down.
Yeah.
But Kevin has drawn the second blank, although clunky tiles to go with it. Though at this point, you know, he doesn't much mind the clunky tiles because at least they score. And
they score, yeah.
And as long as he's, you know, given that he has a 150-point lead at this point, it's really hard to make up that kind of deficit when you're scoring 30 a turn.
Yep. It's funny, Rob, in fact, also picked up a bingo of his own, but similarly, not looking like it's going to play. Unfortunately, Vim blocked what could have been. What could have been. I see KO comes to mind. Doesn't do much for the board, but it scores, and the two Fs together are pretty nice. Don't think it's quite worth playing Keef or something in the top right, burning the plank. Don't need the points that badly. Could definitely bingo again. I believe that Wanderer 15 is a fork face.
If there is steak, I am a fork face as well.
That's true.
I think we all are at that
Hey.
point.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's true.
We had plenty of jugoso steak while we were in South America last
Yeah.
month. It was all delicious.
Yeah. Big agree.
So he goes
So Rob, yeah, go ahead.
So he goes with core for 43, which again, just maximizing score and saying, here's where I'm going, outrun me.
Yeah, basically. Can I get any F's in chat from people? That's a nice little EFF blank there. F. Where's that physics?
Ooh. Effage.
Yeah. Wow, F'age. There's some F's. Let's get some more F's in chat, folks. F is in friends.
Ooh, literati flashback. Does anyone remember what FF was the acronym for? It came up in speed games a lot.
Final Fantasy. No, kidding. Imagine if new words were sold in booster packs. Yeah, imagine you can only get certain words if you pay for them.
Nice.
I love it. I mean, I hate it, but
I mean, I've talked about there are certain aspects of where perhaps Scrabble ought to be following the Magic the Gathering model. This is not one of them.
yeah. Looks like Jesse, we have a winner in chat.
Yeah, the Adam 555, very good. Force forfeit, I believe. I don't think there was a D at the end of that one, but yes, it was basically you would essentially force your opponent to forfeit by running out of time because unlike Scrabble and the way that we play it now, if you got to 0, the game was over.
Yeah.
So as far as Rob's options here, the only thing I'm seeing is something maybe like Lib, making Lope and Irid.
Okay. Yeah, I only came up with like Blip, but I think what you're saying makes sense to me.
Basically just shifts the S hook a couple of spaces more to the left.
Yeah. And that appears to have been Rob Wentworth. Well, I don't know if anyone wants to give odds on Rob winning the game at this point. A big win for Kevin because it's going to put him in solid shape to qualify for the finals. We've now seen after F came down from Kevin, scoring pretty well and putting a fairly useless F in the bottom center of the board. Again, he's kind of playing F to pay respects. Rob has drawn BQW to go with Ling.
No A open. No
A
A
is actually
there.
Yeah, and I see what Benji Scrabble is doing there. He is referencing the fact that I blew a game against Wanderer 15 at the World Championships this year by playing too fast and missing that I had the word niqab on my rack. So thank you for that, Bunwito. You should Wito his bun right out of here. Anyone want to go bowling with a Q?
The Q-ling.
So,
given how does in fact play.
Instead, he just plays QI up top for 35.
Yeah.
And at this point, given where he is in the tournament, still on the outside looking in, but having the best spread coming into this round of the players at 11 and 9, does this become a spread conservation exercise for Rob at this point?
I think so.
I mean, it may as well be because he's not winning, so I don't know if that's his perspective on this. Obviously, he's had a fantastic year with multiple big wins. So, the rest of this may just be icing on the cake. I don't know how closely he's paying attention to the standings at this point, but he has nothing to lose. Though I don't even know how he's going to conserve spread if he keeps drawing things like BGLL and all you can kind of do is giggle. Kevin, remains ahead by 170. Not great. Seth Lipkin suggests bull twang. In doubt. Looks like EA has been played.
Is the bank sealed at this point, or can Rob still exchange if he feels it necessary?
I think he's still good. There should be 9 in the bag, I think. So it won't surprise me if he does in fact decide to exchange. He can, play through it kind of up through the I and Vim. But as we, of course, see here, he is going to get hit again, as Kevin has picked up some good tiles to go with the second blank now. He could play Will, as in Will Anderson. Yeah, definitely a slog of a game if I've ever seen one.
Might have to get him his beer early today.
Yeah.
Going to go for Glib on the right side, which is as good as anything at this point.
Yeah. Looks like Austin Shin beat Dave Wiegand, so Dave is not out of the woods yet. This is even bigger for Kevin to have won, as one of his chasers has picked up a big win. Rob committing to playing through the cruddy words. And his prize for doing that is an S and more consonants. So, chat notices over Bing as a potential play.
I mean, if you want
Austin
to pick
has
one
a
of plays that
negative
scored
spread.
0.
Yeah. Well, it surprised me if he does, in fact, play through the V, but...
Covering or any of the others.
Yeah. This puts the G in the right spot. And, he's looking at the bag now, and he can tell there's just not much that Rob's going to have. If he wants to be super safe, could play, ignored, just blocking all of the lanes. But looks like guessing a K.
Looks like a T. I agree. I agree. The K would be more fun, but
yeah.
Well, also saves the trouble of wondering whether pre-voting is good, though both the P's are played, so it's irrelevant.
Yep. So he'd not play remoting, fortunately. We'll recall from a couple of games ago where remoted was played at a very inopportune time. I did ask the player, John, who had made that play afterwards, and said, well, did you just confuse it with revoted? And he's like, said something along the lines of, I don't know how I'm supposed to remember anything that's going through my brain, so do with that what you will.
I've had those days.
Yeah. All right, so it's that time of the game where we try to go through and see who can find the best end game. This is going to be a well, maybe we'll wait until Wilt having gone down. See who can figure out Kevin's best end game here. Any takers in chat, Mike?
I'm trying to see if, given that Rob's not going to have an outplay, I'm seeing a do alongside F, and then dud in a couple of, at least one place. Yeah. A do and then dud forming dado.
A do and then dud forming dado. Okay. Quackle says something else, but I think you're on the right track. I'm trusting Quackle at this point. Not known for my end game skills.
Kevin chooses to just play dado, which I mean, at this point, with 3 minutes on the clock, it might be worth conserving the mental energy for future rounds. Rob just drops the S on Cotijas.
Yep, which was in fact his best play. Good job, Rob. I feel happy and taking some solace. Gets him over 300. Well, you can see it just broken 300, but now it's solidly over 300. See, this brings him up to 320. But unfortunately, he's probably going to be looking at 550 for his opponent, as Kevin presumably playing Bird. Looks like Kevin's going to think about it for a little bit. Bask in the glory of a big victory, perhaps.
So what did Quackle suggest instead of a do or dado?
Quackle suggested Udo. I'll go back there for a sec. Quackle says Udo in that same spot.
Mm-hmm.
I presume that Cotijas is then played. Mm-hmm. And then Dada in the top left.
Ah, okay.
Apparently nets a couple more points.
Okay.
We've had no Doodle. So
No.
DA off would be nice. Kevin's finally going to put down Erd, which he'll be happy to know is the correct play. And like it's going to bring him to a total of 571 to 320. That just got way out of hand.
Yeah, from Rob's perspective, you hate having a game like that in a critical spot where you needed to win the game, to
exactly
realistically stay in contention. Again, not technically out of it. He could still win a spread fight at 14-10 for that fourth spot, but from Kevin's perspective, that pads his spread in case it becomes necessary and gives him a leg up on everybody else. He'll be at least one game clear of third and potentially 2 games clear of fourth, and definitely, I think, 2 games clear of fifth place, which with 3 to play is
that's where you want to be.
Strong position.
Yeah. So if I recall correctly, have we put up pairings yet? I guess we have now put up pairings because we know that Dave is not yet Gibsonized. So we'll I think we're going to cut to break for a few minutes, but I think we'll have, I assume, Dave coming back on stream to try to wrap things up, as we can see him kind of over on the side there, hovering over Rob. So yeah, on behalf of Jesse and Mike, we'll see y'all in a few minutes.